You have to read Isaiah 52 and 54 to understand the context of Isaiah 53. No one reads a book that way. No one reads a book piecemeal and takes out one verse or one sentence or one paragraph and then runs with it and says, I know what all this entire book means. You would fail your college course if you try to do that. Hello, everyone. In the United States of America, our primary language here is English. Even though we speak American, which is a dialect, not the formal Great Britain or English standard, okay? You have to look in the Webster's Dictionary to know how to properly pronounce English as Queen of England speaks, per se. Back in the day, however, probably going back in the 1800s maybe, early 1900s, Latin was taught regularly in the public school system in the United States. Yes, Latin, because all the great work were written in Latin, like the Shakespearean classics, a lot of the poems and things of that nature. When I became older and started going to university, I actually had a course in Jacobean English, Anglo-Saxon English, read Beowulf. It was really rough in that ancient form of the English tongue. Where am I going with this? In some places in America, maybe charter schools, maybe a private school, you might be able, as an elective, to learn Greek, okay? I was also learned French. It was elective, believe it or not, in grade school back in the day. But unless you are Jewish, okay, you will not be exposed to Hebrew language in an educational setting like in a public school system in America. You just won't, okay? How do you learn Hebrew? Well, you have to, if you're not exposed to it as a young child like me, you have to wait until you get older and you can have choices for yourself in university and maybe major in biblical languages or something like that. Take Hebrew, Jewish courses, cultural courses and things of that nature and learn Hebrew. Learning Hebrew is difficult at my age. Learning any foreign language is difficult at my age, okay? In my home, my wife speaks Russian during the day when I'm at work. When I come home, she transitions quickly to English. And when I'm home, we speak Hebrew and a little bit of Yiddish thrown in there too, believe it or not. So we have the dichotomy of all those languages at home. Where am I going at? Okay, to understand any language, you have to understand the context in which the speaker that you're reading a book in Hebrew, for instance, like the Bible, the Jewish Bible, you have to understand what that operative language was intended to be used in the very beginning when it was documented, when it was written on papyrus by hand or whatever, like a prophet, like a great prophet, like Isaiah. Okay. Where am I going is this. Everyone, Christians know Isaiah 7:14 or 7:15, verse 15, depending on the variant or version of the Bible you have. I think in the King James Version, it may be 7:14. It's 7:15 when you translate it from Hebrew to English and a bilingual Tanakh, like what I have at home. But anyway, if you take one verse from one chapter out of 66 chapters in a book, and then you go running with it, and then form an opinion and try to implement that and try to teach that to other people what you think based on one verse, you can get in a lot of serious problems there, okay? Folks, when you take a verse from a Bible out of context, horrible things have happened in the past, okay? Like beating your wife, like slavery in America, believe it or not, theologians, Baptist pastors and people in the South, all Democrats, I'm sorry, they justified owning African Americans as slaves as based on something they read about as Jews, whatever, in the Old Testament. They took it out of context. Beating your wife is taking things out of context. Okay. The Guyana massacre, Jim Jones down there, he was a Methodist pastor. He taught his flock that he was the promised Messiah. He was their Jesus, and he had to take the Bible out of context to justify his theological opinion. Where am I going? Okay, again, Isaiah, the giant Dead Sea Scroll, which was discovered in 1947. I went into a little bit about this. About 2,100 years old, maybe a little bit less than that. Is written in ancient Hebrew. It means no vowels, no capital letters, nothing. Just ancient Hebrew, okay? The angelic tongue of God, okay? It was written, the whole scroll was found in 1947, okay? You can find this document today in Jerusalem in a special museum, and where it's kept and preserved for austerity. Anyway, there's no chapters in it. There's no chapters. This was an artificial thing that a Catholic priest or bishop did in the 8th century. But anyway, it's not germane. Anyway, it was artificially induced. The chapters were the breakouts and things like that. And the person that was doing this, who was a Christian, purposely broke out the chapters in a way that would make sense to them and their operative language. And at that time, it was all in Greek. Okay, it was a Greek manuscript that they had codified into a book codex form. Okay, eventually, that became Latinized as a Vulgate. Not germane. Don't want to get off topic here. I want to share with you something. In Isaiah chapter 7, Isaiah is pregnant. The book of Isaiah is pregnant with messianic prophecies and things of that nature. But its primary scope and purpose was prophecy for my servant Jacob, in other words, Israel. So when you see my servant Jacob in Isaiah, it's talking only about Israel, folks. Only Israel. Okay? The rest of it talks about the Mashiach, and it's very clearly, when it talks about the Mashiach, what the Mashiach will do in the future. Okay? There's something called present perfect tense in Hebrew. It's something that is a little bit foreign to the English tongue. And I'm going to introduce this, but I need to read chapter Isaiah 7 for you in the introduction there, so you can understand the proper context. Again, most Christians have memorized Isaiah 7:14. Okay, let's talk about the so-called virgin birth of the divine baby whose name would be known as Emmanuel and all of this. Okay, I'm going to read to you a word for word Hebrew to English translation. Okay, so please bear with me. In verse 1, it says, it happened in the days of Ahaz. King Ahaz was a wicked, evil king. Probably one of the most evil kings in Judea at that time. And we're talking about Judea, not the northern kingdom of Israel, okay? The son of Joram, the son of Uzziah, king of Judah. Rezin, the king of Aram. And Pekah, the son of Remaliah, and which was the king of Israel at that time, which is essentially Samaria, went up to wage war against Jerusalem. But they could not triumph over Judea. King Ahaz, he was wicked. It was probably best to describe him. He was an atheist. He did not have faith. He did not believe in the God of his ancestors. He did not believe in miracles. This was the time when Isaiah was a young man, a young prophet in the later years of King Ahaz. Okay. It was told to the house of David, saying, Aram has joined with Ephraim. When you hear Ephraim, that is speaking about the northern kingdom, the 10 tribes. And his heart and the heart of his people shuddered like the shuddering of trees of the forest in the wind. Isaiah did a wonderful job, and when his prophecy, when he composed the scroll of Isaiah originally, it was in poetry. It's a poetic, beautiful tongue. That's something that you don't see, and it's not the way people speak anymore. Okay, in poetry, when he spoke prophecy, it's interesting here about Isaiah 2. I don't want to get off topic too much. Jehovah said this. Jehovah said that. When it said that, folks, it's talking about Isaiah is speaking on behalf of Hashem. Okay? That is confusing too when you read these passages. Hashem or Adonai or the Lord, either words there. Hashem said to Isaiah. Now here, clearly, God was speaking to Isaiah when it was in that operative language. Go out and meet Ahaz, you and your son, Shear-Jashub, which means the remainder will return. Isaiah had a son, probably grown, at the edge of the channel of the upper pool at the road of Launderer's field, and say to him, be calm, be still. Don't be worried. Fear not. Don't let your heart be troubled. We've heard this before. But these two smoldering spent firebrands. In other words, they are speaking a big game, but really they're small McCoys. They're small potatoes compared to what the God of Abraham, Ishak, and Yaakov is going to perform a miracle before King Ahaz and save Jerusalem. They speak loudly, but God speaks louder still. Wonderful, sweet, right? They say, let us attack Judah and vex it and annex it for ourselves. They wanted to take over Judea, the southern kingdom of Israel, and merge it into the northern kingdom. You have to understand here that the Pekah, which was the king of Israel at that time, an evil king, a polytheistic king. He was a Jew, but he did not believe in the God of Abraham. He had allied himself with Aram, which is essentially Syria. He also was allying himself with Assyria, which essentially would be Babylon, or the area of Iraq today. Anyway, he was signing all these foreign military agreements to build up the military to be able to attack Jerusalem and deliver Judea over to his friends and military partners there that he had formed a command and control operation in northern Israel. Now Hashem spoke further to Ahaz. Here, this is Isaiah speaking to King Ahaz. Request a sign for yourself and from Hashem your God. Request it in the far deepest parts of the earth or the highest plateaus of heaven. But Ahaz said that I will not test Hashem. In other words, I don't believe in signs from things I cannot touch. I don't believe in the metaphysical, spiritual realm that you talk about all the time. I don't believe in all that. All I believe is what I can hold in my hand, which is a sword, and what my generals and advisors tell me to be true. What I can see on the field, in the battle, whatever I can hold in my hand, this is what I believe. That's the kind of man Ahaz was. Why did Hashem care anything about this evil king? Why did he waste Isaiah's time to prophesy to a king that did not believe in anything that God said to be true? Why? Because Ahaz had a wonderful, righteous, the most righteous of all sons. His name was Hezekiah. Okay? He was about 9 years old at this time. God saved Ahaz so that the soul of Hezekiah could be conceived. Consider that. Moving on to verse 13, Isaiah responded, hear now, O house of David. What is the house of David? He's speaking to Judea. Is it not enough for you that you scorn human prophets, the mortal people, prophets? You scorn not only God, but you scorn God's messengers. That's what it's saying here. But you scorn your God. You curse God by your disbelief, by your idolatry. And there was a lot of idolatry in Judea at that time. The temple was pretty much closed. The doors were closed. There were no animal sacrifices. There were astral poles. There were groves and things to other gods, Baal worship, even worship of the old Egyptian gods, the gods of Assyria. All of this was going on. Ahaz allowed all this going on. If it feels good, he did it. That's the kind of person he was. Does it remind you of some people in America, right? But get this, in verse 14, therefore my Lord himself would give you a sign. The Lord here in English is capitalized because it's talking about Hashem or Adonai. Okay? The Lord himself would give you a sign. Behold, the young woman is pregnant. Now, when he's saying that the young woman, that is Alma. That is Alma. That is young woman, okay? It's not virgin, which is Betula, if I'm pronouncing the words correctly, okay? It's interesting in Hebrew here, very clear that the word intended by the author, which was Isaiah of blessed memory, he was using the word referred to young woman. And when it uses ha'ama, that is the young woman over there. Okay. He does not have detail here who this woman was, but she was a young woman. She was already pregnant. Okay. She is pregnant and she will conceive a son, and his name will be known as Emmanuel, which means simply God is with us. Okay. In Hebrew, names for children, for both boys and girls, God, the name of God is often used in that naming convention. For instance, my daughter is Eliora, Shira, which means light of God. Shira means music. Okay. Like the Psalms. But anyway, not too germane here, but I wanted to say Emmanuel is not a strange name. A lot of people were named Emmanuel. It had a meaning or whatever. Theologians believe this young woman was no other than the prophetess of the wife of Isaiah. Okay, he was about to have another son. Now understand here that Isaiah is speaking to King Ahaz. Everyone is terrified in Judea about what's happening. All the military posturing up north. Ahaz is running out of supplies. His supply lines were cut off. If he had any trade agreements with northern Israel at that time, all that was falling apart. He was on his own. I'm sure he was a little bit nervous. The people pouring King Ahaz to save him. Okay. They didn't know what to do because they did not put their faith in God from many years back. You know, both the King Ahaz and the people of Judea were unrighteous. Okay. There were a few people, a remnant there that followed Isaiah, the Levitical priesthood, people that they followed and believed in God. But there are a lot of people there that were secular minded, Reformed Jews, polytheistic. They did not believe in the absolutes of the God of Moses. Okay. That's essentially what the situation was. So when Isaiah said to King Ahaz, over there, the young woman, you see that young woman there, she's pregnant. Now, the last thing you want to do in the middle of a war when you feel like everyone is going to die is brag on someone's pregnancy, because, you know, that's not good to have a child, conceive a child in uncertain times in trial and tribulation when you have imminent military conquest of Judea. But there was qualifiers here, and what he was saying here, that he will eat cream and honey as soon as he knows to abhor evil and choose good. Okay? You have to be older than 1 to eat honey, by the way. I found that out from the pediatrician about my daughter. So he's talking about this woman's son before this son can realize and discern between good and evil, wrong and right. In other words, when Papa says, don't do this, and Mama says, don't do this, they know there's consequences. Okay, I don't want to get into that. But anyway, cream and honey are a good thing. You don't eat cream and honey when you're in the middle of a war, right? And why would Isaiah brag on this young woman having a baby soon? She was pregnant. She's going to have a son. His name is a sign that God is going to be with us. Because Ahaz, again, only trusted what he could see. So he said, you see that one? You don't believe anything I've told you. Here's a woman, a young woman. She's pregnant. Her son, when he's born, his name is going to be Emmanuel. That's going to be a sign to you that God is with Judea. God has not forsaken you because of your Davidic line from King David. Okay. And this child will be raised up in a time of milk and honey, cream, rich cream, and all the delightful things that you would normally have when you're not in the middle of a war. He certainly, Isaiah was not prophesying to Ahaz of some Christ child that would be born 700 years in the future. Why would that comfort King Ahaz at that time in the middle of a war? And you can imagine there are probably soldiers hitting their shields with spears and swords and everything else, making a lot of clatter, a lot of drums playing, all this stuff, yelling and shouting and things of that nature. Why would that comfort King Ahaz talking about a child being born 700 years in the future? it does not make any sense. Okay? Even if you read this one verse, it still does not make sense because the Hebrew word is for young woman. Not Betula, but Alma. It means young woman, folks. You can read the Hebrew. Again, there's an Isaiah scroll in Jerusalem. You can read the ancient Hebrew, the original Hebrew, before it was monkeyed with the Roman Catholic Church. But concluding this, the land of the two kings whom you fear will be abandoned. Hashem will bring upon you and upon your people and upon your father's family days such you have not seen since the day that Ephraim turned away from you. Ephraim turned away from Judea in the days of King Solomon's son. That's when the 10 tribes committed civil war against Judea and broke away. Approximately 60 or 70 years in the future, not too germane, all of Ephraim, all of northern Israel will be exiled by the king of Assyria. Where am I going with all this? Folks, this is history. This is prophecy. Isaiah 7:15 is not talking about the Mashiach. He was talking about a sign in Ahaz's time within a few years of his later years. He already had a son, Hezekiah, and things of that nature. Don't worry about these enemies of God. They're your enemies. They're God's enemies. I will take care of them. The sign for you, this woman has a smile on her face because she's going to have a beautiful, healthy son, and he's being raised. And the golden age of Israel in the time of King Solomon. This is talking about Hezekiah, folks, the most righteous of all the Israel's kings of old, and ever will be again, King Hezekiah. I hope this means something to you. Okay, it means something to me. I was raised to believe things based on faith and not based on facts, not based on scholarly opinion, not based on any knowledge of Hebrew. But once you read Hebrew, once you have quantitative proof of source of material, I mean, a prophet of God, to be a prophet of God, you had to be 100% right about everything you prophesy, or it's not the messaging is not from God. And for it to be a miracle, you have to witness that miracle. You have to witness that miracle for it to be a miracle. People say that Mary, the mother of Jesus, had virgin birth, and Jesus was born through a virgin immaculate conception and all this. It says in the Gospels that she was a virgin. How do you know she was a virgin? She already had the baby when the mages or whatever went to the stable in Bethlehem or whatever, if you go by Matthew's account. You have to believe in a miracle, you have to have proof of that. You have to have witnesses of that. You have to hold it in your hands. Like King Ahaz saw the sign of the beautiful birth of this young woman in his own time, and then the elimination of his enemies. I don't know if King Ahaz, when he died, said a final Shema. I don't know. I like to think about optimistic things. But folks, we need to be thinking about facts, not fiction. Jewish tradition is based on our national revelation 3,600 years ago on Mount Sinai. Christian tradition is based on Constantine, the Council of Nicaea, around 385 CE. The Roman Catholic Church is the foundation of the modern Christian denominational belief. Isaiah 7:14, 7:15 is not talking about Jesus. Okay, read the entire chapter. There's 66 chapters in Isaiah. Isaiah 53 is not talking about what you think it is. You have to read Isaiah 52 and 54 to understand the context of Isaiah 53. No one reads a book that way. No one reads a book piecemeal and takes out one verse or one sentence or one paragraph and then runs with it and says, I know what all this entire book means. You would fail your college course if you try to do that, even with cheat system, crypt notes and things of that nature. Anyway, shalom aleichem. Take care. God bless your home.